Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the MatchNet podcast. It's your best buddy, Benjy here. This is the only podcast that I am aware of that is about the matching and blessing, and it's just to help you guys, you good folks at home, receive the blessing with honor and passion and love and all the good stuff that you want in your life. And I was just in a conversation with a young man, and this conversation is very, very frequent. It's a conversation that I have all the time. I've had many times myself when I was preparing for the matching blessing, and that has to do with anxiety about the future and fear of uncertainty. And now, as someone that has struggled with this a lot in my life, I want to give this message as a form of love and compassion for people that are like this. And also, as someone that mentors and talks with a lot of men and women who are struggling with anxiety about the future, what they're going to do with their life, who they're going to marry, how they're going to raise their kids, etc., I know firsthand how hard it is to deal with uncertainty. So my goal in this short video is to give you some peace of mind and let you know that it's going to be all right, and I'll actually take you through the process that has helped me a lot in my own journey. All right? So the conversation that I just had with a fine matching candidate who is in his early 20s goes a little something like this. I ask him, okay, so what's blocking you from becoming the man that you want to be, the husband, the future husband, and going through the matching process and becoming blessed and having children? What is stopping you? And he's like, well, the primary thing I'm struggling with is I feel a lot of anxiety, a lot. Like, I wake up sometimes, I sleep in, and I just beat myself up a lot. And I'm just really uncertain about where I'm going in my life, what direction I'm going, what I'm going to do with my life, my career, my path. I don't know where God is guiding me. I don't know what the best decisions are, right? If this sounds familiar, you're going to appreciate this message, right? And so I gave him a bit of advice that I have used myself and I received a long time ago. And then I told him, brother, I feel you, I understand you. I know exactly what that's like, to have the uncertainty of the future, the fear of not knowing what's going to happen, the fear of not knowing if you're on the right path, right, that God is guiding you. And I looked at him and I told him, you're 22 years old. It is actually reasonable that you don't know what the heck you're doing, right? You're 22 years old. It is reasonable that you have not figured out your entire life's plan. And in fact, another way of saying that is, it is unreasonable that you would have your entire life planned and figured out at 22 years old. And he was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? I was like, I'll say it again. It is unreasonable to assume that at 22 or 23 or 24 or 30 or 40 even, that you would have your entire life path figured out at that age. So give yourself the liberation, the peace of mind, the grace to know that it's okay to not have things figured out. But the fear that keeps a lot of people paralyzed in this situation is a paralysis by analysis. The fear of, if I make the wrong decision, will it be unavoidable to go down that path? If I make the wrong decision, will it be possible to course correct? And I can tell you guys with certainty that the path that God is setting you on, whatever you want to call it, the place that you want to go, the vision you have for your life, that path is usually not the opposite direction of the decision that you make, right? Let's say you're choosing a career, or let's say you're choosing a ministry to go into, or let's say you're even choosing a spouse, right? The career that you take, the path that you choose is usually directionally correct. Usually it's somewhat, maybe a few degrees off course, but it's directionally correct, and it's very, very, very rare and probably impossible that the direction you're going is completely the opposite direction of where you want to go. So you can know and have the comfort that if you just make a decision and go in a direction, it's not going to be the wrong direction. It's going to be directionally right, which means somewhat correct, and you can course correct as you go, and you can learn as you go, and you can pivot the direction that you're going, right? So I told this guy my own experience, my own example in my life. When I started my career, when I was 21, 22 years old, I started working full time. I had a decision to make, to move to New York City to work at our national movement headquarters in New York. It was a big decision, right? And at the time, I thought, my role was going to be project manager. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be a project manager for the BFM, the Blessing Family Ministry, Family Fed at headquarters, and that's going to be the trajectory of my life. So I learned the skills of project management. I coordinated events, I coordinated programs, online programs, in-person programs. I did a lot of coordination, project management. And that's the skill set that I gained at that time, right? And then I started working on websites as kind of like a part of my job description. And then I was like, wow, I really like websites and marketing and social media stuff. I guess I'm pretty good at this. This is the direction that I'm going to be going. So I thought for years that the direction of my life was going to be project management and website design and stuff like that, right? It turns out I hate website design. I hate it. And I don't like doing social media stuff, right? But it's a skill set I learned. And then at this point in my life, as a 30-year-old person going on to 31 this year, I have concluded that directionally my mission in my life and where I'm going is I want to teach. I want to educate. I want to have conversations. I want to mentor people, men and women that are trying to go through this process of receiving the blessing, having sexual integrity, and having a family. And all the ups and downs that come with that. I want to help guide people through that process, right? That's what I want to do. And at this point in my life, I've learned enough about paths and missions in my life to know that I'm not going to be set like this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm open to consideration. I'm open to whatever God has in store for me. And here's the point though, I didn't think in the beginning of my career that I would be doing teaching. I didn't think I was a teacher. Like, I'm not that kind of person. I don't like standing on stage. I don't like public speaking. I don't like making podcasts, right? That's what I thought, right? But I had no idea at this point that this is where I would be and this is what I'd be called to do. I had no idea. So give yourself the peace of mind, my friends. Don't beat yourself up. It's okay. It's completely okay and reasonable that you haven't figured everything out at 20 years old, at 30 years old, even at 40 years old, right? And you will learn as you go. And in my own life, I know over the next 10 years, I might focus on learning the skills to teach, learning the skills to educate and to mentor as what I'm doing. But maybe in 10 years from now, it might pivot. Maybe I'll go back to website design. God, I hope not, but it might be. I don't know. And I'm open. And I think that's what having faith and trust is ultimately. And you've heard me talk about this before, but trust and faith is a two-way street. God trusts you, has faith in you, believes in you, that you will make the right decisions in your life. And so in return, all you have to do is trust back. All you have to do is know that the path you're on might not look like what you think it should, or what you even want it to look like, but having faith that it's directionally correct, and you can course correct as you go. You'll learn the skills that you need as you go. But don't be paralyzed and think that there's only one correct path for you, and if you don't make the right path, right decision, you're going to be doomed to a lifetime of going the opposite directions. Because I promise you, you're not going to be going in the opposite direction. You're probably going to be going in the directionally correct direction, right? So give yourself that mental liberation that it's all right. So here's the natural next question. It's like, okay, great, Benji. It's okay. It's more important to make a decision, as long as, I might add, as long as your heart is pure and your motivation is clear. All right. If you have a pure heart, which means you want what is best, not just for you, but for God, for your spouse, for your future family, as long as that is where your heart is and that's where your motivation is, you want what is best, whatever decision you make in that context will be okay. It will be directionally correct, and you will learn as you go, and you come to the destination eventually. All right. So the next natural question people have is, Benji, I get that. That sounds good. That makes sense. That's logical. But what about choosing a spouse, right? Because choosing a spouse is not something that you can do every year. It's not like a career where you can completely change your spouse, right? It's a one-time decision. It's something that does affect your life and your children and eternity, right? So it's not something to be taken lightly. However, I think when people are thinking about that, they're thinking like they can't course correct. You cannot course correct your spouse, right? But you can course correct yourself and your character and your personality. And you can ask anybody who's been married for over 10 years if they feel like they're a different person now than they were when they got married. 100% of the time they'll say, yeah, I've changed, I've grown, I've learned. Because nobody starts their marriage off thinking, this is exactly the person that I'm going to grow into. This is the exact relationship that I'm going to have with my spouse. No. They grow into that relationship. They learn as they go. They course correct themselves, their heart, their motivation, their love as they go. So in the same sense, to the same degree, it's more important to make decisions to go in the direction of finding your spouse as opposed to be paralyzed and not make a decision. And I'm not saying, by the way, that you should just choose anybody under the sun and just hope it works out. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you have to take action to get to that place where you can feel confidently and faithfully and trusting in God that this is a good decision. And I'm trusting in my own heart. I'm trusting in my own original mind that I'm making a good decision, that I will be able to course correct myself as we go, but I'm committed to this relationship and this person. And so maybe the decision and the action you need to take is to get in a communication process with someone, is just to start talking with someone. And I'm surprised at how paralyzed people are with this. When you're choosing to communicate with someone, you're not choosing a spouse. You're not choosing to forfeit your life. You're choosing to have a conversation, my friends. You're choosing to get to know someone and decide whether this is a good match or not. That's what you're deciding to. That's what you're committed to. So don't be paralyzed by like, oh, I don't want to start communicating with somebody because I'm afraid of being in a committed relationship that I don't even want to be, right? You're probably not going to do that. So don't worry about that. Make a decision to reach out to someone, to start talking. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, right? Choosing a life partner takes a lot of give and take, a lot of consideration. If you were choosing a CEO for your company, right? Like if you started a company or a business and you were trying to pass on this company to someone else. If you're choosing a CEO to run your company, don't you think you would spend a little more time than just one interview with one person? You'd probably find a lot of people to communicate with and figure out if this is the right person. And so to the same extent, looking for a spouse, you should have that much consideration. Open up your pool of opportunities. Have many conversations. And don't just settle on the first person, right? So take that advice. Know that everything will be okay. Guys, if I could go back 10 years, or let's say 13 years, to my 18-year-old self that was just getting blessed, had a lot of anxiety about, is this marriage going to work out? Is my blessing worth it? Am I going to have kids? How are my kids going to grow up? All the things that I was anxious about. What is my career going to look like? What am I going to be doing for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, right? If I could go back and talk to that version of me, guys, I would love to say, dude, relax. Everything will work out. Everything does. And in the grand scheme of things, life is short, eternity is long, and very few things matter. So focus on the very few things that matter. And to me, it's loving relationships, connecting with people, following your heart, following your dreams, swinging big, swinging for the fences, never giving up, working hard. Those are things that matter. So work on those. But don't forget the ones that you love in the process. And don't worry about it because it all works out. It will. All right. I hope that's helpful for you guys. I want you guys to join the MatchNet program if you haven't yet. You can go to matchnet.us if you want a systematic process through the matching process. And again, guys, this is just off the cuff from my heart to you guys, because I have these conversations all the time of, I don't know what to do with my life and I'm beating myself up because I should have it figured out. Guys, who told you that you have to figure it out? Your college, your professor, your advisor? Who said you have to figure out your entire life plan at 22 years old? Nobody does. It's unreasonable. It's completely unreasonable. You'll have a direction to go and take action in that direction. And as you go, you'll figure it out. All right? Lots of love to you from me. See ya.